Gold Squad TV, what's good? What's good? What's good? What's the deal? All right, man. So me and my couple of my friends, a couple of my fellow basketball heads, had a conversation today when I was at my regular job and also do text. And I've come to the conclusion to this when it comes to the Boston Celtics. I think there's a bigger problem to the Boston Celtics that goes beyond this season. It's not the typical problem, what you guys may or may not be thinking. I think there's a culture problem in Boston, not just the city, and I'm not even pointing to race. So I want to make that clear. I'm not going that route. But I do think there's a cultural problem in how they address their athletes, specifically for the Celtics, and how they see their expectations and how they see things. Now, I want to just make this clear. If you're a Boston Celtics fan, you should expect your squad to be either in a conference finals or in the finals or bust every year. You have 17 NBA banners. Some have come before the majority of the players on the team were born. So I want to make that clear. That said, this is where I divide myself on this. Speaking to about the Boston media, a lot of the Boston media is really like the Jackie McMullins of the world, the Bob Ryans, all the way to the Forsbergs, the A. Sherrod Blakeleys, to the Abby Chins, the Kendrick Perkins, who now is in the media, former Celtic, Brian Scalabrine. I see, and I'm not going to put Perk in here too much because he made some valid points last night. But I see a continuum of people who go out their way to defend ownership, defend a coach, and defend a GM. And no responsibility or accountability is ever taken for at least two to three people, three things that I mentioned. This idea that Brad Stevens doesn't have accountability, it doesn't need to be accountable for his actions, for his lack of actions, lack of change. The fact that Danny Aldo has taken accountability for the way the roster is constructed this year, doesn't take accountability for his bad deals and his bad situations when it comes to his greed when he has a good trade on the table. What the problem I have with the media out there though, and getting is the fact that they're so quick to defend. Mike Gorman attacked Jaylen Brown and JT, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and I've been hard on Jason Tatum. And believe me, Jason Tatum's been driving me nuts all year. But in this instance, I gotta defend him, and I gotta defend JB. Mike Gorman went on a radio show right after the Dallas loss and blamed them for the reason why they are losing, basically calling them selfish and telling them instead of trying to average 28 points a game, should try to average 22 and get 9 assists each instead of going after individual accolades. Now, if you remember Jaylen Brown, right after that game or the game after, or just last night, just came on and said, I don't even feel like an all-star because the Celtics aren't winning. So this doesn't even feel enjoyable to me. Kind of makes Mike Gorman seem one-sided, and it seems Gorman seems more willing to defend the coaching staff and defend management. This is where the divide comes in. We all know Jason Tatum's not LeBron James, nor Jaylen Brown's LeBron James. LeBron James has a specific skill set. He's a pass first, score second, do a whole bunch of other things, Swiss Army knife type of player. Those players don't come very often. That's why he's LeBron James. I often hear in commentary Scalabrine and Gorman talking about how the two stars need to get other guys involved. They need to learn how to get them better, the players better. Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's a players' league, for one. Two, those guys aren't those type of players. Most players aren't those type of players. You're expecting guys to go and get 22 and 9, 21 and 8, and 9 rebounds and 8, trying to put these crazy numbers up. And those guys are scorers. They're two-way players, but they're scorers. You're expecting those guys to be something that they're not. That's one. Their style of play is completely different than what LeBron brings to the table. That's one. Two, to call them selfish when you consider Grant Williams is on the floor a lot of times with them. You have guys like Carson Edwards, Trey Waters, Ojale. I mean, I could name some of these guys wouldn't be in the league and the other teams surrounding them. What are they supposed to do? As far as I'm concerned, Tatum should be more selfish. As far as I'm concerned, Jaylen Brown should be more selfish. They're not selfish, but they should be, considering what they have around them right now. Now, Marcus has been out, so I think some of this gets changed as soon as Marcus Smart comes back. That said, all that situation with Gorman just sounded like pure team BS. The days of Bird, McHale, and Dennis Johnson and passing ball to the open man and scoring less to become. Larry Bird didn't even do that. Larry Bird averaged 29 points a game, damn near almost every year. He went from 25 to 29. Yeah, he had some high assist years, but Larry Bird would be first one to tell you, give me the damn ball when it's time to score. He wasn't going to dump that shit to McHale in clutch moments if he knew that he was the guy that was going to get the clutch buckets. That's a fact. McHale will tell you that. Paul Pierce, when he was a Celtic, whether he was with Garnett and Allen or he was Dolo, Paul Pierce was like, give me the damn ball in the fourth. That's kind of how as a matter of fact, that's kind of how the league works. The league works when your superstars are helping your team win because they are the reason. Now, you can sit there and say it was a team sport, but it's a players' league. You can't support management if they've done continuously no type of work on helping this roster get better. And now now we get to Kemba. I've also been hard on Kemba. I've also defended Kemba. In this instance, I'm going to defend Kemba. Why is Brad Stevens, instead of having him get to the rim and draw fouls, why is Brad Stevens having to go around, pin me down screens to shoot threes? Don't you think if Brad didn't like the mid-range jumper so much because he's such an analytical idiot, he would let Kemba go and shoot a couple of mid-rangers to get hot? That's really his game. Never really ever been a three-point threat his whole career. He's had a couple of years where he can hit it, but that's not really his shot. That mid-range, anywhere from 16 to 18 feet, has always been Kemba's bread and butter. That dribble in, dribble out, dribble, step back, mid-range, bam. That's always been Kemba. Why are you running Kemba around pin down screens? If you don't believe me, watch all Kemba's old film in Charlotte. Even watch some of his old film in Boston the first couple months. Why is the first shot Kemba Walker's shooting a three-point shot? That's not his game. It's never been Kemba Walker's game. He can hit a couple, 2 or 3 of them, but it's not. Why are you asking Kemba to shoot threes? Why don't you run the offense to pick and roll to start the game, get Kemba involved, and then get all the other guys involved as time? If Kemba's giving you at least 8 to 10 points in the first quarter, even if he just finishes with 20 points, it's much better. It's much more efficient and better for the team if he's getting easy shots versus him running off pin screens, which is what you should be doing for Naismith. This is what kills me about Brad Stevens. You're going to run pin me down screens and pick and roll of a pin me down screens for Kemba Walker, but you're not going to run pin me down screens for Aaron Naismith. Aaron Naismith's not a dribbler. He's a shooter. You run Pimmy down, have tight set of pick, have Naismith get around him and shoot the three. It's a fast release. Bam, it's in. It's either in or he's going to draw a foul. Why aren't you running pin down screens for shooters? But you're going to run a pin me down screen off a 2 to 3 picks for Kemba Walker when he's not that type of player. You're trying to make Kemba into something he's not. There's a lot of people sitting here. My man EM that's on here. Salute my dude, man. Salute my G. I know he's sitting there saying Kemba's body's betraying him, but I disagree. The dude's knee's not the issue this year. It's his shooting. He could get around guys all day. I've seen him get around a few dudes. That's not the problem. His shooting's off. And when you keep having him shoot threes and running him off pin me down screens or trying to get him to go by 2 or 3 screens just to get a layup, when he could easily just break a guy down and just get to the rim and draw a foul, because he was top 5 or top 6 in the league for years, drawing fouls from the 15 to 16 feet range. Now he's not getting any of that, which is ironic because Kyrie was done. They were doing the same thing to Kyrie the last year he was in Boston. The Celtics were 30th in the league in free throw percentage when Kyrie was last year. Now, you can sit there and say all you want about Kemba's knee, but Kyrie's knees are not that great either. As a matter of fact, when Kyrie was here, his knees were pretty bad. Gordon Hayward's knees were shit. Look what Gordon Hayward's doing. Look at all these players having career seasons. Gordon Hayward, Terry Rozier. All right? Kyrie Irving, as great as he is, he's having his best year efficiency-wise. Ralph Nader coming off the bench for Phoenix. All right? Al Horford's having a resurgence year in OKC. Because, since they're not winning, you don't really hear about it. He's having a resurgent year. I can keep going on and on. Brad Wanamaker is doing well in his limited minutes in Golden State. How said all these guys look great in different systems, but in our system, they look terrible. In Brad Stevens' system, Brad needs to take blame for that. And for the fact that these Boston mediaites don't see that, it's crazy to me. And I heard Chris Draper going on, Draper, who's now the Sacramento Kings pre and post game report guy, was sitting there and saying, Celtics fans, you don't fire Brad Stevens when he's gotten you to 2 or 3 Eastern Conference Finals appearances. Okay, so we punish players for having empty stats, right? What you used to do compared to what you're doing now. How come we don't punish coaches for that? He's got the 3 Eastern Conference Finals, yeah. Has he won them? No. Outside that 2018 team, he's come nowhere near close. He got swept the first year when the Eastern Conference Finals. And he damn near blew the whole series against Miami because he couldn't figure out 1-2 or a 2-3 zone. You're going to tell me the players are the problem? The players are the problem. Players aren't hustling. No, Chris Washburn wasn't correct. They're tuning him the fuck out. They're tuning Brad and they're tuning Danny out. And for Wick to sit there and talk about giving the vote of confidence to sit there and say, no, I want Brad here. I want Danny here. I'm not giving up. And then you got all these Celtic shills and the media people. I heard Jackie McMullen talking about we need a small forward that could dish the ball, shoot, and get set guys up. Like we had that in Gordon Hayward. As good as Gordon Hayward's playing in Charlotte, he wasn't healthy here, and he wasn't going to work out here. So he didn't even want to play here. It's the reason why he left. He opted out. So he's seen that Brad wasn't going to value him anyway. He's playing in a different role, like a lot of these guys are. That's more on Brad than anything. I guess my point is, let me get back to the media, though. The media seems to always be siding coaching and management. And they'll do anything to defend it. It's so damn desperate how they defend Brad Stevens because Brad Stevens is a nice guy. They're going to defend Brad because he's a really genuinely nice guy. And what I say to that is that nice guys don't win shit. They've never won anything in the history of life. Now, I used to be a nice guy. I learned not to be a nice guy anymore in order to win. Sorry, it doesn't work. Brad doesn't know how to get his troops and rally his troops. Danny is a clueless idiot who gets overly praised for a couple trades he made at certain points of his career for the most part. I already did a video on his one finals champion, one NBA championship in 18 years video that I did. I want y'all to check it out on my channel. But for these lapdogs to sit there and defend and constantly defend Brad Stevens and constantly defend Danny Ainge for his decisions, but yet shit on Kemba Walker, yet shit on Jason Tatum, yet shit on Jaylen Brown for all selfishly different reasons, instead of just pointing the finger at where they need to point it at. The lack of accountability and the culture in Boston when it comes to the media is always to blame the player. It's always to blame the player. Always to blame the player. That's why Kyrie left. That's why Horford left. There's a lot of people there that think Kyrie is a diva. He may be a diva. Does he look that much of a diva now? Maybe he just didn't want to play under a fucking stupid-ass coach that doesn't know what the hell he's doing. They said Horford was kind of a diva. Well, Horford's gone. All these guys are gone. They're going to blame it on JT and JB and say these guys weren't ready to win. Last thing, they try to sit there and say JT and JB. Scalabrine went on there and said that it's different for JB and JT versus Trae Young and Donovan Mitchell. They gave the keys to the car for Donovan Mitchell and Trae Young versus JB and JT not being the best players on the team. I'm not even going to dignify that with a cussing message. All I can sit there and say is look at that 2018 Eastern Conference Finals run. Look at the 2020 Eastern Conference run. Tell me who the two best players were in both those runs. Where it mattered. Where was Trae Young last year? Didn't even make the playoffs. Where was Donovan Mitchell in 2018? Getting eliminated in the second round. I believe Jason Tatum got to the Eastern Conference Finals. I believe Jaylen Brown got to the Eastern Conference Finals. For these people to sit there and say those guys have never been touted as being the best players in the league, best players on their team, they are clearly misguided, and they just want to sit there and just be hard on those two. It goes without saying, I've had enough of all this. All I can tell you is that I don't see this getting any better. Even if we win the next 10 games, I don't see this getting any better. This is a cultural problem. What I'm going to go ahead and say is what my boy said. The Boston media is out of touch. They don't realize that NBA is an NBA players league. This is not negotiable. This is not an owners league. It is a NBA players league. This is not 1990 anymore. When the players want a coach gone, they'll want a coach gone. At some point, it's going to get to a point where Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are going to get together and go in that office and tell Wick, get rid of this dude or we gone. If you don't think that's going to happen, you must not understand how growth works and how power works and stroke works. Right now, they might not say it, but give it 2 years of not being relevant and not having players around them. You mean to tell me Jaylen Brown's going to want to stay here if Grant Williams is the best thing you could offer him as a role player? Think Jason Tatum's going to want to stay here if the best thing you could offer him is Romeo Langford as being a role player? Nah, they gonna departure. You already know it. So there's definitely a cultural clash. And hey, listen, if you guys want me to get deeper into it, feel free to hit me up on Messenger on Facebook. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, it is what it is. Go Squad TV, salute. Subscribe, leave your comments down below.